Okay, Xi'an's History of Rock, Part 13. Chang Chang Chang! Yeah, that total coincidence. Number 13, unlucky for some, it's goth rock. So it didn't really exist in the 60s as a sound. There were moments, though, so key moments for me were Venus in Furs, 1966, Velvet Underground, great kind of modern, tragic, kind of exotic sound. Painted Black, a couple of years later, the Rolling Stones, everything black, painted black, 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 black. That's like the goth sentiment. And then around that time also Leonard Cohen started producing records after being a writer, and he was instrumental in the creation of the kind of feel, the inspiration, the tragic sound, solemn, maybe even depressive or depressing sound. In terms of image, there's back again to Screaming Lord Sutch with his kind of demonic, monstrous kind of image through the 60s. And then Black Sabbath, when they came on the scene, kind of really dark outlook on things, and also a lot of the chord sequences, they became acceptable, these kind of angular chord sequences, no longer really trying to make like pop songs, but just trying to make maybe even corrosive or uncomfortable chord sequences. Alice Cooper, not so much of the uncomfortable chord sequences, although they did quite get kind of noise and avant-garde, but Alice Cooper were big, like dark glam band, lots of black, lots of makeup in those early years, so important in the development. And then Suzi Quatro, again, this kind of effeminism in males, but then you get the kind of masculinism in females. This is what I mentioned in glam rock, and goth rock really took that on, but without the colour, so they really took their image from the glam rock scene, and also musical influence from the glam rock scene. But then just black, maybe bits of white, grey, silver maybe, but generally just black. So Suzi Quatro, perfect example. The black leather and androgyny. And then there's just one step to really possibly the band that solidified the sound and solidified the scene would be Suzi and the Banshees. So the sound now was the goth rock sound. So you get dark, low voices. Obviously, Suzi from Suzi and the Banshees was a woman, so couldn't go that too low. But for a woman, went pretty low, and other goth rock bands that became kind of baritone voice became like a goth rock thing. But the sound was like they created this kind of dark, almost chilling, distant, reverb. You can hear the Scream, the first Banshees album, produced by Steve Lillywhite, because their producer was sick. So an engineer, a really young engineer, just walked on the scene and just slapped loads of reverb. So it just kind of really helped create the sound, this kind of distant, cold, dark sound. And then very soon after, they just started to spring up. I mean, the most important, I think, and the most prolific of the goth rock bands to follow would have been The Cure. So you've got the black, you've got the makeup, and you've got that thin kind of cold sound. They warmed up as the years went on, but many didn't. The Killing Joke a massive, really a pillar in goth rock, and in fact lots of scenes that came from goth rock. Through The Killing Joke, I mean, they were very varied. They had the pop songs. They even had a hit or two. I mean, be it very kind of very dark pop songs, but lots of their songs were kind of tribal. They were very percussive, and they really experimented, and they were kind of true musicians, and so yeah, very influential in many scenes. But what was happening next was really like a push into electronic music. In the early 80s, and then you get Depeche Mode, who are really the kings of they're goth rock heroes, but they're also like pop heroes. I mean, they were great pop songs. They had many hits, massively successful band. Lots of kind of blurring the lines, androgynous, homosexual undertones, perhaps, lyrics about touching on kind of dark bedroom themes, possibly one of the first famous bands to talk about like sadomasochism and or at least imply lots of kind of new things that hadn't really been talked about much in mainstream society. So yeah, a very important band culturally, not just in goth rock. From The Killing Joke, from those kind of cold bands, and then Depeche Mode, not so cold, but from all these bands I've just mentioned, kind of arose new scenes like synth wave and dark wave and cold wave. Lots of minimalistic kind of hardcore electronic sounds. That kind of generated all around Europe. In fact, I think probably more out of England than continental Europe, more than England or the United States. France and Germany specifically, and then all that kind of culminated into new sounds, and then from that you get in the industrial scene, which was a massive, ultimately electronic scene, but there was definitely some rock aspects, and in fact. Ministry, not the 80s pop band, but the 90s industrial band, Ministry and Nine Inch Nails kind of took from these, from the industrial scene as well as from hard rock, and created their own sounds. And also from those kind of scenes, you also get bands like Dead Can Dance, who had like a great, like ancient, modern sound, like a juxtaposition. They drew a lot of their influence from tribal music, like literally Oriental and tribal music, global world music, and created very kind of dark soundscapes and beautiful sounds, and kind of touching on really like a gothic type band type sound. Aside from the kind of the way it went electronically as all that was happening had to such a huge level in the 80s, such a huge push towards electronic sound, there were also a bunch of goth rock bands who are more classic, pulling on more traditional rock sounds like glam rock and hard rock, and for that reason they had a bit more of a fatter sound and a warmer sound, and lighter melodies as well. Kind of hopeful sound. Sisters of Mercy, still black and the makeup and the horror, but had actually quite some great kind of epic rock songs like Positive rock songs. This Corrosion, massive hit from the 80s. That's Sisters of Mercy and their offspring, The Mission, and the single particularly Pillar of Strength, which I love, which is like just such a great, positive, hopeful goth rock song. I suppose The Cult as well, that kind of side of things. The Damned I'd like to mention, although they started as one of the first punk bands, kind of changed their look and changed their sound and became more of a goth rock band in the 80s. Yeah, so what else? Well, it was still kind of subculture. I mean, Depeche Mode had some massive hits and their occasional, Sisters of Mercy, one or two songs which were goth rock hits, but it wasn't like a famous scene like punk. If you in the 80s, if you talk to someone about what's goth rock or the goth scene, they probably wouldn't know what you were talking about. But if you said what's punk, have you heard of punk? They'd be like, oh yeah, of course. There's those kids from the 70s who just fucking fuck you, everything. No. So it hadn't really broken for me. It existed. There was a sound, but it hadn't really broken globally, like on a massive level, until Marilyn Manson. And for me, the moment was Beautiful People. I mean, which the video was incredible, which really helped like push them, like eject them into the future, really, from such one of the great video directors of the 90s. So with that video, they kind of it exploded, and suddenly goth rock was a thing, and to follow. Before it was more a subculture. Now it was like a mainstream culture. Yeah.